Doubles and Coffee, Trinidad and Tobago, a member of the Commonwealth, a diamond in the Commonwealth. Trinidad and Tobago, all of our citizens had to pay now to get a visa, expensive fees, to go to the United Kingdom. Did you think the United Kingdom took that decision lightly? But it was under the PNM for 9.5 years that they let gang violence get out of hand. And gangsters running from other gangsters and seeking asylum, putting pressure on the UK system, on their taxpayers, that the UK in coming and reporting to the PNM Minister of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs and nothing happening. Amory Brown, Dan Paul, Vishnu Dan Paul, who pelt Amory Brown under the bus. But don't try that. Dan Paul is a PNM High Commissioner to the United Kingdom. When we lost our privilege, we lost our birthright basically to go freely to the United Kingdom. Our partner, our so-called mother and father, the colonial masters, those who guided our history, took us through independence and our constitution, and we were always a gem, oil and gas. We had to pay for visa because of PNM. You know a report that is issued, updated on the reasons, the rationale presented by the UK government, showing statistics of investigations and reports done by the UK government officials in 2023 and 2024, when the PNM was in charge, just before eliminating our ability to travel freely to the United Kingdom. When PNM government ministers was on companies, directors with gangsters in the UK. Adrian Leons, how you going? PNM Minister of Housing, PNM cabinet member on a company as a director with a known gangster, and all of the citizens have to suffer. You know this report, a country policy and information note, gangs, Trinidad and Tobago, updated June 2026. But it goes back to the elements and the information with the 180 gangs, 1,750 from its research, the UK Department research into Trinidad and Tobago, as they do in any country, in order to advise, to formulate their foreign policy, their immigration policy, their tourism policy, and their advice to their citizens of where to travel freely and encourage people to go and don't go. This is a document compiled by the UK government. You know, Penelope Becker's read the report, and Penelope Becker said, well, the UNC pushed them statistics and what was their influence on the report, because the report is showing that, you know, gangs really took over the country, and maybe the UNC will be using that report in order to justify a state of emergency in the war against criminality and so on. And then the report says that most of the gangs operate in PNM constituencies. The report didn't say that. The report just said where they have gangs. We in Trinidad and Tobago know where does vote PNM, automatic. You put any goat, you put Fitzgerald at Talbot Hines, you put dribbling dotish Kareem Marcel with the tongue hanging out his mouth, and they still get 8,000 votes automatic, because those are the areas that have voted PNM from inception, from since Dr. Williams was in Pampas. So the UK ain't studying what is UNC area and what is PNM area. They just put the areas, and we, the locals, we know what area is PNM's stronghold. And it so happens, whether you read the Dr. Selwyn Ryan report, whether you do any analysis of any constituency, and the PNM held strongholds are the worst in performance in any metric, whether in single parent homes, families, community development, education, Montessori, early childhood, primary school, performance, essay writing, sports development, sports science, identification of talent, SEA, performance in discipline, discipline and expulsion, suspension, job creation, job accessibility, job benefits, graduation rates, O-level, A-level, undergraduate degree, master's degree, doctorate, any metric you use. PNM health constituencies are at the lowest end of the ladder. This wasn't always so. Back in the day, some of these constituencies held some of the greatest academic minds, the greatest cultural icons, good businessmen and so on. But the advent of the PNM implementing policies to wean people off the resources and take it for themselves to enrich those who don't look like those in front of the PNM on the stage, who don't look like Kareem Marcel. Okay, he got lucky with his big blubbering, dribbling mouth dunce. Oh, he white. Hey, white boy. Okay, you did well. Good for you. I'm glad for you. You're one of the few black people who get through with something under the PNM. So don't pretend that PNM is a black party. PNM is a disease on black people. So Penelope Beckles doesn't even read the report really, sees one or two articles and opens her mouth to make a statement. And this is why the PNM is in a total mess, because even the PNM know that Penny wasn't good before, and now that they give her the mantle, she's showing the world that she ain't good. Just like Stuart Smallpin Young. I and all didn't realize that Smallpin was really that dotish, even though as a lawyer he was supporting Brian Manning, who tried to sue me about a $9 million basketball league. He and AA Commoner and my brother Shashi and myself blow them out so bad that even the man who was the first defender, Nixon Dial, who did not put in a defense, he ended up winning because at the last minute, Douglas Mendes advised them, hey, don't go in that court. All you have to be mad, the kind of cocktail all you go in and get. Them robots go in and drill Brian Manning down there. Don't go in that court. So they had to settle and pay everybody legal fees and so on. That was Stuart Smallpin Young. So I knew as a lawyer he was not impressive. I mean, that was only one case. Maybe it was a bad day. But I didn't know until Rowley selected him as Prime Minister and he carried his PNM into an election and he was forced as a feature speaker to speak every night. Every night I listen to this blithering idiot and I say, but wait now, I didn't realize Stuart Smallpin Young so dotish, so uninspirational. The man cannot talk on a platform. The man is an idiot. And that's the worst PNM speaker ever when Williams come on. Boy, even if you don't like Williams, you have to listen to that man to talk. When Patrick Mervyn, Augustus Manning get on a platform and start to wax poetic with the mic, looking away at the paper, even if it's not a PNM, you have to enjoy the way he talk and he deliver. Rowley, that embarrassment to humanity. Rowley, that low character scumbag. That man who don't even take care of the children that he dropping all over the place, playing he on romance with Sharon now. That scumbucket, that teacher who used his position to get pum-pum from a girl at school age. That clown who had man wife walking down the steps past street dog, past a parrot, open a dungeon door home by him and waiting on a red couch. Even that clown though, when he get up to talk, even though every word coming out his mouth is a lie, he talk with conviction though. If you only lose focus for a moment, you believe that scumbucket called Rowley. Because he could talk. He lied, but he could talk. Stuart Smallpin couldn't talk. And every night, the more he talked, the more PNM votes saying, me ain't voting for that. I can't vote for that. Me ain't know what that is. And that was where the cocktail came. So understand this. That is the PNM. So Penelope Beckles, you are now standing worse than Stuart Smallpin Young. Imagine in the battle for leadership of PNM, Stuart Young leading you, Penny. And now, the coup de grace. Penelope Beckles, read a report compiled investigation statistics from 2023-2024 when them was in government, and here Penelope Beckers. Beckers argued that the report should not be interpreted as a new criminal intelligence assessment and questioned whether the government's own data differed from the information presented by British authorities. The data does not differ. The difference now is that the UNC, United National Congress government under Kamla Persad-Bissessar is using every tool in its arsenal to attack this gang problem. This 180 gangs with 1750 members that the PNM regaled us with statistics. This government is fighting to eliminate it by any means necessary, by all means necessary. State of emergency, yes, because the number one priority of Kamla Persad-Bissessar is keeping law-abiding citizens safe. So it has dropped, but there's no celebration, because when you turn a country into such a mess, you cannot just celebrate incremental improvements while you're happy that it's working and you need to work harder to keep it going down. You can't claim victory. But Penelope Beckers says that the information presented by British authorities may be different. Government must tell us whether they were aware that this exercise was being done. Government must tell you. You was in government, you blithering idiot. The exercise was done in 2023, PNM government. You was a PNM minister of whether it was planning or housing or whatever the hell it was. You was there. You didn't know? You didn't read it? You're so lazy. What you was doing, pretending you're fishing and cutting up kingfish and scraping it? You were in government when this data was compiled. She said, they must tell us whether the information provided by the UK government is different from what they brought before Parliament. She noted that the report was prepared primarily as a guide for asylum and human rights decision involving TNT, and said PNM had never denied the existence of a gang problem. It was during PNM. PNM exacerbated the gang problem. PNM is a gang penny. Beckers also accused the government of using intimidation to secure support for its policies, linking the issue to recent comments by Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar regarding independent senators who oppose government legislation. Beckers also challenged what she described as government attempts to portray gang activity as being confined to traditionally PNM supporting communities, noting that the recent murders had also occurred in areas outside those regions. She said the key question for citizens remains public safety, says Penelope Beckers. The test for the normal citizen is, do you feel safer now? The response from the population is no, and the government has a failing grade, she said. Penelope Beckers. First of all, if the test is if you feel safer now with the murder rate under 400 at 359 as opposed to 2024 under the PNM of 624 murders. The question is, do people feel safer with a murder rate that is nearly half of that of the PNM? I don't think it requires an answer. If serious crimes from the TTPS statistics are down 42% as opposed to the PNM in 2024 into April 2025, then people will feel safer. Now, are people satisfied? Are people happy? No. But if the question is if you feel safer than under the PNM, it's a resounding yes. But is the government, is Kamla Persad-Bissessar, is Wayne Sturge, Roger Alexander happy and celebrating and popping champagne? No, because the work continues and better, brighter days are coming. So, Penelope Beckers, to answer your question, people clearly will feel safer. To answer your question, the PNM left this country to be ravaged by criminal gangs, and the UNC is dealing with it head on across the board. So things will get better. Brighter days are coming. And if PNM constituencies are the worst, It's because PNM is the worst, Penelope Beckers. And you know, you are the worst of the worst, because you are the worst leader the PNM has ever had. So bless, you stay right there. We will handle the governance of this country for the next 20 years. Okay? Call Michaela. She might need a new party to take the place of the PNM. Bless.